Welcome to the Halloween episode of the Crew Up North podcast. My name is Jennifer. With me today is the owner and founder of Sudbury-based production company Lowbar Productions, Richard Barlow.
We're like, Kate, we're adding in the gore, so we gotta get it now.
In 2023, Richard released a terrifically haunting 6-part horror anthology called Glimpses of the Grim.
Glimpses of the Grim.
One of the shorts, Birthday Girl, has received multiple nominations, including Best Death at Bay of the Blood Film Festival.
It's kind of the most mind-trippy of them.
Yes. And this year, Richard is following it up with a spine-tingling season 2.
Dustin and I were like, let's do season 2 and let's go bigger. And bigger, we meant more ambitious, but my brain went to like, oh, okay, full
Longer.
short.
We're going to discuss all of that right here on the Crew Up North.
So little to believe in.
Well, here we are. It's the Halloween episode.
Ooh.
We somewhat dress the part.
A little bit.
For those who are just listening, I am wearing a shirt that says, "Just the tip, I promise." And the image is of a butcher's knife with blood on just the tip. Little murderous humor for you on this episode.
I love it.
And you are wearing a Resident Evil crew shirt.
Yeah.
So you worked on the Resident Evil that was in Sudbury?
I did, yeah. That was actually like my first official crew job was that one.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I started as a zombie, just doing background. And then I got a call where they were like, hey, you were very quiet and respectable while you were on set, and we need someone in the office. Do you want to come in for, I think I was just supposed to cover for 3 days. Someone was going away. I was supposed to cover. And then when I got there, the production coordinator was like, hey, do you want to stay for a couple weeks instead of 3 days? And I was like, sure.
Hey, do you want to stay forever?
And then it was like, hey, do you want to stay until wrap? And then
you got the shirt.
And then I got the shirt.
It's official.
And then it was official. And then from that, yeah, it was like, do you want to stay 2 weeks? Do you want to stay till wrap? Hey, do you want to come with us on the next project?
Oh, cool.
And then that's how I started doing all that.
Nice. So office work, like office PA.
Office PA, yeah.
Cool.
And then eventually got to fill in a little bit for APC.
What's that?
Assistant production coordinator.
Okay.
Just like a few days when our APC had to leave. I was on Shoresy.
That is a whole other world that I don't quite understand because I don't personally correspond with production coordinators and all that. So I don't quite understand the job.
It's a world that a lot of people don't understand.
Okay.
And I feel very lucky to have like gotten in there and seen how things work, because then now like doing my own stuff and like not saying that like being a PA prepared me to be a producer.
Right.
But I mean, like, you know, was working very close with the producers and seeing how everything in the office and like that side of things works.
Yeah.
So that now on my productions, I'm able to do it. And, you know, for small independent productions, we have a lot of people being like, wow, you really know how to like do the pre-production and how to produce and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like just very lucky to have that experience.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I can see how that could really come in handy. Well then, I think it's time that we dig into our snacks. So obviously I had to get us some Halloween goodies. I actually went to the farmer's market, and there is a wonderful lady there who sells freeze-dried marshmallows. And
Marshmallows, cool. I've had freeze-dried other things.
Right. And so she does have some holiday themed ones. In this case, we have freeze-dried eyeballs.
Love it.
And veins is what I think those are.
That's what I was thinking when I saw them. They seemed veiny.
It's so disgusting that I love it.
I'm very excited to try it. I also, though, like, am a little worried about the spill down mess that it's going to have, because every freeze-dried thing I've ever had has been, like, this big.
Well,
Whereas, like, these are
We'll just say it's part of your costume.
Yeah.
I think we can pass it off as that today.
Sure.
And then I went to Bulk Barn and got the rest of the stuff. So, you know, we just got some Reese's Pieces. I feel like it's not Halloween without Reese's Pieces. I don't know why that's in my head.
I think the color.
Okay.
It's just, you know,
Yep.
they're orange. And I think technically brown, but kind of orange and black.
Yeah.
So.
So that's good. Sour keys obviously need to have chocolate covered pretzels, gummy teeth.
A must.
Yeah, must. And this one's new for me. Spicy dill pretzels.
Also
which
a little scared of that. But
I thought that those were going to be disgusting, but I did try them just to make sure that I wasn't going to buy something like absolutely horrendous. And they're actually really, really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's try the marshmallow first. The iris is flavored. Like mine's
I think
strawberry.
the veins are flavored. I think
yeah.
That's what I'm getting. It's kind of like almost like a fruit roll-up type thing,
Yes.
which might be what this is actually.
Holy
Looking at
smokes.
it, the veins might be like freeze-dried fruit by the foot or something.
That is such a cool idea. I'm pretty sure she's at the farmer's market like all year round.
Nice.
So,
Get
you're in
there.
North Bay, go check her out. She's called Permafrost. So go check
I
her
like
out.
that.
Uh-huh. Holy smoke.
I will, for the sake of a podcast, probably
Mm-hmm.
not have much more of that because it's very crunchy. But,
Extremely. Sorry, everyone. Also not sorry, because it's delicious.
yeah.
Well then. So, let's talk about Glimpses of the Grim.
Glimpses of the Grim.
You've done 2 seasons now. And second season is about to start premiering October 15th.
October 15th, yes.
And we will get to all of that side of that in a minute. Let's talk about the first season and how that came about, how you started developing it. Where'd you come up with the idea?
So it kind of started as like almost like an experiment type thing. Dustin Moore, who is the other producer on the series, in season 1, he was director of photography. And then this season 2, still producer and director of photography, but he also took on half of the stories. So season 1, I wrote and directed all the episodes, and then season 2, we split them 3 and 3. It was just him and I. He had worked sound on another project, another short film that I had produced. And we knew we wanted to work with each other a little more and get experience with each other and see. I wanted to see what he was like as a DP. So we had kind of met and we were like, hey, let's try to do some things together, even if it's like something that we don't expect to air. Like, let's just film some things together. Let's have a script and let's just turn on a camera and do it.
Yep.
And then we left, and I think it was that night, if not like just 1 or 2 days later, that I then messaged him. And I was like, I know we talked about doing things that we would never like show to people and we would just kind of play around, but Halloween's coming up, and this was like the first or second week of September. Like last season we gave ourselves no time.
Ooh, yeah.
I was like, October's coming up. Maybe we'd film a few horror things. And see what we can get done, and we'll release it. And it was only supposed to be like an Instagram release.
Oh, okay.
Like, I never intended to do anything more than just like put videos up on social media and kind of just like be like, here you go, world, look at these.
Wow, I'm surprised. Yeah.
Um
Only because the quality is really good and all of that stuff. Like there's, and spoiler alert, I'm in a couple of them. So
yeah.
I remember it just feeling like a professional production. So for you to have it in mind that you were just going to throw it up on Instagram,
it
is
was just
incredible.
something that we were like, I was like, we're making reels, we're making stories right now. That's it. But it wasn't far into it. Like, I think last season you were part of our first day of filming. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you had filmed another short earlier in the day,
Yeah, we were doing last season. We did 2 in a day.
which is a lot.
And so I think after that first day, seeing the playback, seeing how we did things, we were like, this might be more than just social media releases. And then so we kind of were like, all right, well then YouTube releases, I guess. And we started making it more of a thing. But to begin with, it was like, I wasn't even considering it a production. You were the only person that like even did a little bit of travel. Anyone else that reached out, I was like, not worth it. Don't do it. This is not a real thing. This is just friends fooling around. The only reason why when you reached out or I reached out, one of us reached out to each other.
I can't remember now.
You were the only one I was okay with traveling because I was like, I've wanted to work with you for a while. So
Same
like,
here. And I think we were planning on working on one of your other projects that hadn't come to fruition yet.
Yeah.
So I still felt the same way, that I still wanted to work on something of yours.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone else, I had a couple other people reach out that were from out of town, and I was like, don't do it. Like, this is, we're making Instagram stories. Like, don't come up.
We don't know what's
this.
gonna happen.
And then they might have seen the release afterwards and been like, screw you.
Right.
That's not what you were making. But yeah, no, it happened to be after we filmed the first little bit that we were like, oh, this might be a little bigger than what we thought.
Yeah. And so having said all that, you were obviously working with basically no budget.
No budget. Season 1, big old goose egg on the like, I think a couple things we had to buy like some minor props for. So they might have had like a $10 budget. But like for the most part, in the entirety of season 1 was things that we already had and everyone coming out to volunteer.
That's really nice. And so it wasn't just you and Dustin. I remember there being a handful of crew members there. So how were you able to gather everyone together to sort of volunteer for this project?
It was kind of
I'm eating a sour key for
in
this.
the same way that that Dustin and I had got together. Eric Myron, who is also Dad Bought Music, he was also someone that we were talking to originally, and he also wanted to get more involved and see what we could do together, sort of thing. So it was just a group of people that was like, yeah, let's just try things together. People who want to get involved, and a lot of our crew, both last season and this season, and it seems for most of our projects that we do together, a lot of our crew are people with no experience at all that kind of want to dip their toes into film and learn a little bit. Which is something that I really like. It's something that I've always kind of said I want with my company, is to be a starting ground for people, sort of thing. Because it can be a big investment to need to go to film school, or like if with no experience, it's hard to just go to a big production and be like, hey, I want in.
Yes.
So to kind of be that for people of like, I think I want to get into film. Can I come on set one day? Like, yeah, we'll find a job for you and kind of teach you along the way. So yeah, it was just a bunch of people like that were just kind of like, let's make something spooky.
Yep. That's cool. So then, given the short timeline from you deciding to make it and then actually starting to film them, had you already pre-written these? Like, were you sitting on the idea for a while, or did you sort of panic? Right?
No. So it was, like I said, we had that meeting where we talked about like, we should do something. And a couple days later, I was like, hey, do you want to do horror? And they said yes. And I think the day that Dustin and I agreed, like, yep, okay, this is a thing we're going to do, I was driving down to my parents that day, and they live 4 or 5 hours away, depending on traffic. And that whole drive, I came up with all 6 in my head.
Really?
I just put on like horror music, horror soundtracks, and just listened and was like, okay, yep, that's an idea that I can run with, kind of. And luckily, since they were all so short, it took me, figuring out from the point of concept of it, there's not much more to the films other than like the little bit of concept that there is. So I was able to easily like brainstorm and come up with ideas for each one of like, okay, this is like the jump scare that I want, or this is the thing that I want, and here's the little bit of story around it, sort of thing. 2 of them were kind of, I already had been thinking about making short films of those in the past. Peekaboo, the one with my son.
Yes.
and Monitor. I had both. Monitor I had actually tried to shoot as a short film before. So it was the only one that was like did have a bit of a script. That one might have been the hardest one to write because I was going from a 15-minute script,
condensing
it to 3 minutes, and be like, what do I actually really need here?
Yep.
And then all the other ones were written that weekend. Like I got to my parents, it was late, so they were like going to bed, and I was like, great, good night, and I opened my laptop and just started writing, and then the next day sent the 6 scripts off.
Holy
to
smokes.
Dustin.
So you must have had already a love of horror.
Oh yes.
In order to
whole life. Yeah.
I'm learning that I'm enjoying being in them, but from like a kid, just like even Michael Jackson's Thriller like terrified me. I was the kid that had to leave the room at Halloween parties at an embarrassingly old age, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I come from.
I was the opposite. I was the kid that like at a young age, when everyone else was like scared of whatever the haunted house was or something, I was like, could be scarier. That's
really?
You didn't go for it.
I think that's really cool. That just shows like that it's coming from a deep, passionate place.
Yeah. Of loving to be scared and to scare people.
I wonder what your wife thinks of. Is she like when you go off to film these? She's just like, well, good luck murdering people today. Like,
she's equally into horror, okay. so it's she horror's almost all we watch in my house, it seems. And now even my son is like not full on horror, but
he's getting there.
He likes the macabre.
And he's what age?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Which I think he started early because I think 3 is when I saw my first horror film.
Okay.
And he's been like in the world.
And seeing the behind the scenes.
I will say when we shot his episode last year, he loved watching it back and didn't understand because he was 2 at the time.
Yeah.
So we really didn't know what he was watching. And now watching it back, I'll be like, do you want to see your movie? And he gets really excited, but then he gets scared because he now understands like, oh, I disappeared and something bad is happening.
Aww.
Yeah.
So what was that like to be in the movie? Because you also acted in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you were acting with your son, and then you also got to direct him too.
Yeah. He was great. I was really nervous that day because as a 2-year-old on set, don't work with animals, don't work with children.
Right.
And I mean, I think luckily playing father-son, it was easy for him to pretend. Mm-hmm. But I was nervous of like, I do need you to do specific things. Like, it's not just like I'm going to turn the camera on you and let you do what you want to do sort of thing. But he was really good. It was like, I told him to stand where I needed him to stand. And then I was like, okay, when I say action, I need you to laugh. And on action, he started laughing and it sounded real. And so I was like, yeah, you're a little actor in the making.
Yeah.
And then now we kind of practice different things. He says he wants to be in another one. And like not long ago we practiced. I put down like little marks around the house. And I was like, okay, go to mark 1. And he went to mark 1. Okay, go to mark 2. And he just practiced hitting his mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's like actually interested in it.
Yeah.
Because
he's I think since the interest in acting, whether he maybe doesn't understand it fully or not, he hasn't brought that up much, but he has asked a couple times if he can help me direct.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
We should see what he's got.
So I mean, give him a camera.
I think he's already like, you know, an old soul. So
yeah. I mean, maybe he'll do what I did and start making movies with his toys.
Yeah, he's going to be your competition now.
Yeah.
So what is it about horror that you like writing?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think because I started watching horror at a young age, I've just always loved it and loved, for whatever reason, loved being scared and loved the creepy. I just like to be able to, you know, what can I come up with that's kind of spooky or might scare others. Mm-hmm. I think it's just something like, as a writer in general, I like the big emotions and being able to like get people to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And being scared is one of those big emotions. And I'm like, if I can do that to someone, then great. You know, it's the same way that like when I write my dramas, I'm like, if I can make someone cry, but like naturally and not just like use those things that are kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Like if I can naturally get someone to feel for the character and stuff. So yeah.
I feel that way about how you write, like how I've either watched what you've done or read your scripts. Because the first project that I saw of yours was The First Last Kiss. And I remember thinking that the writing was so good, and I really loved the storyline. So that's kind of,
thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of where I started being like, I need to figure out how to weasel my way into one of his short films.
I want to redo that short, because that was one where I loved the script, but I did not have the knowledge of how to put a film together at the time.
So what would you want to redo about it then?
Remake. Honestly, just like there was a certain like effect that I wanted, because it's about a time loop. So I really like the image in my head was her walking off screen and then walking on the other side, like in a wide shot, which now doesn't sound that hard, but at the time it didn't sound that hard, but I had no idea how to do it. So we didn't pull that off. And then like that movie, I mean, you can see it on my YouTube. It is an audio nightmare, which like most of the cuts of that film are out of necessity. Like it wasn't like I get to use the best take. It's like, this is the take where the audio is okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Whereas like now I have Dustin with me, he comes from sound and audio.
Right.
So like never a problem now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the journey is attempt, even like me doing this podcast. It's like, you know, at some point you have to let go of perfection, just do it.
Yeah.
And then you learn along the way.
First step. And it's what I tell people trying to get into the industry or like trying to make their own stuff. Like, just do it, and your first one's going to be crap.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not crap, then good for you, but I'm telling you it will be. And then your second one's probably also going to be crap, and then your third one's going to be a little better but still not great.
But not as stinky.
And then, and then you just kind of keep going, and eventually you'll start making better things. And
yeah. I think it's...
I just, like I said, with that one, I wish I had saved that script.
Oh, yeah.
For when I had a bit more knowledge.
But visually speaking, like, and this is kind of how I learned too, is like I'll watch something back and be like, oh, there's something wrong with it. And sometimes you know what it is, and sometimes you have to kind of think on it, but you kind of can't figure it out until you actually do it.
Yeah.
And then discover the problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just do it, everyone.
And then learn from it and do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing fairly well for yourself, because one of the shorts, Birthday Girl, has gotten into multiple film festivals. So, Sick, Bay of Blood, and Cinefest. Am I missing anything?
Sioux Film Fest. That one hasn't happened yet.
Okay. So it will be showing there.
And Hex After Dark, which is in Calgary.
Oh, cool.
And that's sometime in October. I don't remember.
Nice.
But it's also in that one. It's up for Best Short.
Up for Best Short. I was going to say it has been nominated for multiple. It's had multiple nominations, and it's also won Best Death.
Best Death
at Bay of Blood.
Yeah.
So what was it about Birthday Girl that you wanted to put that one out into festivals?
That one, there was just something to it. I don't fully know what. But it was just like, this is my favorite one. I think even writing it, I was like, this is the one that I'm most like interested in, sort of thing. Like, it's the most unique vision. And then it turned out really well. It's kind of the most mind trippy of them.
Yes.
And just all the elements really came together, and they did in all of them. Like, I was really proud with how all of them turned out last season. But I think it was like technically how it came together, and the script was just like, this is the one that I think if it works out, that I'm gonna be submitting to film festivals. So Birthday Girl, it seems to be the festival darling, and then your episode is seems to be the audience favorite. It has the most views.
Okay, well, I'll take it. That one's Babysitter, if anyone's wondering.
Babysitter, yeah.
And you actually gave me the opportunity, spoiler alert, to play a villain. And I feel like I keep getting typecast as like some nice person. I don't know why.
I saw right through that. I was
exactly.
Like, I met you once last season. I was like, well, she's awful. No, I just, I don't know. It was just the role I had for you, sort of thing. It was, and I think it was just, especially like last season when we talked and like you were going to be in one of them. I think that was just the one that I was like, I think you fit this the best, sort of thing. And especially like your character is married to Dustin. So we knew Dustin was going to be playing that role. So I think it was just kind of like, yes, I can see you as a couple. Like it works. Yeah. And so it wasn't even about you being a villain last season. And then another, I guess not spoiler alert, but another like announcement is the Babysitter has a sequel this season.
That's right.
It's the only one that got a sequel. And this was the season when I was like, I'm gonna let you be a villain.
Yeah, amped it up for sure. You actually just showed me a cut of it right before we started rolling, and
you're not nice.
I'm certainly not nice, and little sadism, little hint of that in there. Hence the shirt that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd represent myself.
Perfect.
In multiple ways. I actually, though, in all seriousness, have been looking forward to finding a role where I start off as someone who you wouldn't suspect as the villain, and then it's revealed that I am. Like, ever since I saw BBC's Sherlock, where Moriarty, like, he starts off as like this sort of bumbly, like, you think maybe he's like hitting on Sherlock, and it's like the scientist, and then it turns out that he's actually Moriarty. I just remember like thinking that was the best villain, and he plays it so well.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
I love those type of villains, the ones that you don't think are bad or could be bad, and then they're just the worst.
Yeah.
Which, like, we didn't have the time really with micro shorts. Like, your introduction in Babysitter One's very quick, but that was the idea, sort of thing, of like, this nice couple ends up not being a very nice couple.
I tried to give a little hint of what, not, just the tiniest on one of the lines.
You had the line. You have the trust me, I think is what you said. But yeah, and you killed it.
Thank you. It was super fun to play. And I did binge watch a lot, an embarrassing amount of true crime and psychological sorts of documentaries on sociopaths and psychopaths.
And it shows.
Turns out I didn't need the information at all. It was all inside of me.
There. Yeah.
So micro shorts. Let's talk a bit about why you chose micro shorts, which are what, 3 minutes and under?
3 and under.
Versus a regular short that could be up to 20 minutes.
Yeah. I think actually like the definition of feature starts at like 45 minutes. So I think anything under that is considered
really?
Short. I could be wrong.
A half an hour short, that would be something.
I've seen them.
Have you?
At some festivals.
Okay.
I
don't even know what to say. I'm like, that seems a bit long.
Not very short.
Yeah.
micro shorts was, again, I mean, we intended this to be like social media stories and stuff. So they were never supposed to be long. Again, it was like kind of an experiment of us working together. So we're like, let's keep it short. And if the day goes to hell, well, you know, we only need 3 minutes or less of material.
That makes sense.
And then it just kind of like, people seemed to like it. It was just very digestible, quick things that were spooky.
Yep.
So we just kind of stuck with. I will say, season 2, we have a couple that go over, because Dustin and I were like, let's do season 2 and let's go bigger, and bigger we meant more ambitious, but my brain went to like, oh, okay, full
Longer.
short. So yeah, we have the last 2 episodes are long.
That's okay though. But like, how long? 30 minutes?
They're not 30 minutes.
Okay.
The longest we have this season, I think, is like 7.5 minutes.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
still a good amount of, you know, it's still short enough, I think.
Yeah.
For attention span wise.
Yeah. We said let's up the ambition this season. And I found it hard to do that without also making the stories longer.
I think that's fair though.
Yeah.
So let's talk about season 2 then. You actually went out and did some crowdfunding.
Yes. Yeah, I'd never done crowdfunding before. But I was like, I would love to pay people who come out. Like, I love that we have so many people that are willing to be like, hey, I'll come and just have fun and make stuff with you. But I was like, if I could give someone anything. So we raised money to be able to pay cast. So, again, not as much as I'd love to pay people, but something. And it was very successful. It was we weren't asking for much. Again, going from a $0 budget, I was like, hey, if we could have just anything. So I made the goal very low, and we surpassed it pretty quickly with a few very generous donors. There were we had lots of people who were very supportive, and it was one of those things that like any dollar goes a long way sort of thing when you have such a low budget. They're like, we will stretch that dollar. So very thankful to all the people who were supportive. And then kind of out of nowhere, we had a couple people not from the north who had seen season 1 and they liked it and wanted to support it. So they gave.
So they saw season 1.
They gave a lovely amount of money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 fans.
2 fans somewhere out there, and now 2 executive producers, because
that's right.
That's
what giving money's all about.
Yeah. They gave us enough that I was like, you're not a supporter anymore. You are. You're part of this now.
An executive producer would just be the financial part of it, or do they get any sort of say?
I mean, for this, what it was on the crowdfunding campaign, it was really just financial.
Okay.
I'm sure they gave us money. I mean, it was still a very micro budget film, but they donated enough that if they did have say in it, if they wanted say in something, I probably would have been like, all right, yeah, hey, what do you want? What do you need?
Everyone gets murdered. No survivors.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they were great. They called into set a couple times.
I was there for one of those.
Kind of just talked, and they were very happy to just be like, we're happy to support. Go do your thing.
That's
and it was
so
great.
Nice.
Yeah.
That must feel really good to know that you've put out a product and there's people out there that loved it and want to support it.
Yeah. That was I had heard good things about season 1. But that was the first moment of I think we're doing something good here.
Yeah.
If it's people that I'm not otherwise connected with being like, we liked it and we want to support it.
No kidding. So you had mentioned earlier that the DP and co-producer Dustin had decided to come on as a writer and director of half of the episodes for season 2.
Yeah.
What was the decision behind that?
I think I was just like, hey, you're very much a part of this. When it comes to anthologies, I'm always like, let's get some different voices in there, some different writing styles.
Okay.
So I think at one of our first meetings, I was like, do you want to write some? I'm happy to do all 6 again. But if you want to get in there as well, because he's also an award-winning writer, and
I didn't know that about him.
he is.
Where's Dustin?
He
Get him on the phone.
he just won at SICK at Sudbury Indie Creature Con. One
yeah?
of his scripts that we're planning on producing next year. Won sickest screenplay. And that same screenplay was a finalist, a big finalist. It was like out of like tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
It was a finalist. So like he's got the writing chops. And so, yeah, I was like, hey, if you want to take on, this is kind of our joint project. So I'm happy if we go halvesies on the stories.
That's super cool.
And he wrote them and he delivered.
So I wasn't on set for the other episode. So how did that work then on the episodes that he directed? And you were still obviously on set to help out in any way, or? Yeah,
so he's way better on the camera than I am. So he stuck to being DP as well. He directed it, and I was kind of there. I have a lot of experience. I started as an actor, sort of thing. So he was kind of like, if you want to like have any notes on performances and stuff like that, like you and.
Well, that's good.
And like I let him know too. I was like, let me know if I'm overstepping at any point, because I do have a tendency to be like, I have notes. But yeah, it was kind of I just was there if he needed me anywhere, sort of thing. And I mean, even on his stuff, on my stuff, like I'm sure you saw on set, it's very much a bounce back and forth between it. Like
yes.
There are a few things that I'm like, it says I directed, it says he directed. I'm like, I wonder if most of the time we should say we co-directed this, because a lot of it is us working together.
That's a really, I want to say, having been on set, many times, it's sometimes you see that battle between DP and director. So I feel like that's you're pretty lucky to have found that relationship.
Yeah, it's a good relationship to have. And going from last season, when the Glimpses project was our first time working together, this season now, in between, we've done so much stuff together. It's kind of weird to think that we've only been working together for a year. Because,
right. Wow, I wouldn't have known that. When I was on set last year, I did not get that at all.
I mean, like, especially your day last year was our first day ever working together.
Really?
Other than, like, there was something, like I said, there was one where I was a producer and he was sound guy. So, like, we barely interacted on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was our first time working together as director and DP.
Holy smokes.
And then from last year to now this season, in between, we've done more projects than you would think most indie producers were putting together.
Yeah, because you've done other shorts.
We've done other shorts. We did a TV show. We did like at least 6 other times on set working together on a project, and that's, I think, even low. So by the time we got to this season, we very much understand each other, and so it makes it easy to be like, hey, this thing that I want, what I'm thinking.
I feel the same way about working with my crew as well.
Yeah.
I don't even do full sentences. Just
Yeah.
like, that thing with it's like, yeah, okay, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great.
That thing that we did last time, I want that.
Just give it to me. I don't need to complete my sentence, please. So the TV show, let's talk a bit about that. I know that we're doing Halloween, but since you brought it up, are we allowed to talk about it? I should ask that.
I don't know if we should say much about it.
Okay. It's a secret. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
When's it airing?
I don't know.
Has it wrapped?
It's hasn't officially wrapped. The most of it is wrapped. There's a couple other things to get. We're in a bit of a production limbo. It's supposed to air in January.
Okay.
If not, then I think the next airing is like next October.
Okay. Something to
Next
look
year.
forward to.
It will air next year.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting all the pieces together. It was a big undertaking, and it went great. But then just these last couple pieces are like, since we kind of like half wrapped, and we were like, okay, and then these are the last pieces that we need to put together, sort of thing. Then schedules and availabilities and stuff went everywhere, so it's about putting it together.
I think that's actually a good note about the behind the scenes of filmmaking in general. Is like, I find myself oftentimes just thinking like it's a miracle anything ever gets made.
Oh, I know.
And to completion, because you can film something and then something happens in the editing, and it just never gets put out.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hard on myself about that one because it is not going as smooth as the other productions, but I try to remind myself that like everything we've done except for this season of Glimpses has been $0 budget. So like the fact that we've been able to put out a whole bunch of stuff is
super impressive.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So like this one thing taking a little longer than I planned is okay.
Yes.
But like there's still sleepless nights of me being like, it's supposed to be done.
I think that's fair, but but also I think your desire to get to that level is a good thing, even though you probably just drive yourself crazy. But I think that's good, and it's going to lead to good things. So
hope so.
Yeah.
So
then on that note, what advice would you have for someone who would like to create their own project but thinks that, I don't have a budget, so I can't do any of it?
I mean, you can do things on zero budget. You have to find the right team. Especially if you're someone, I've been lucky that like, even saying a project is zero budget, I had a camera before. Like that's what I made Last First Kiss on. Dustin had a better camera. That's what we did last year's Glimpses on. And then I made some investments and did some stuff that like I now also have a very good camera. So like to say something is $0 budget, there still needs to be the gear. Like you still need that.
Even an iPhone, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, to begin with, you're not going to have the control or really the lenses is what it comes down to on the iPhone. But I mean, like for your first thing, like we said, your first thing's not going to be great anyway. So no matter how you can make it, make it. And then grow from there. And there's ways to get that gear. There's people out there who you can get to work with you who might have the gear. One thing that I'm slowly putting together and trying to work on is like a cheap rental house for people to get gear from.
That's a great idea.
Sometimes gear rentals, even though it's rentals, can still be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So I'm trying to get a package together of like a early filmmaker package where like $150, you have everything you need to shoot for a weekend.
That's great. That's a great idea.
And I can't really say that's part of the advice because that's not there yet.
Right.
Like $0 is possible, but you just have to produce harder. You have to find those pieces for free and put them together and find the ways of, I know this guy who has a camera, so I'm going to bring him into it. And I know I have a friend and she's really good. She has some sound stuff, so I'm going to bring her into it. And just like, just putting those pieces together. And if you have to shoot on your iPhone, shoot on your iPhone. Just make it. And, just know it's at the end of the day, you have to produce it, sort of thing.
Yeah, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier.
Yeah. There's not much more advice than just do it.
Yeah.
And then, learn from it.
Yeah, I think I'm guilty of sitting on ideas for too long. Like
I was for the longest time.
Yeah.
And there was just one point that I was like, I just got fed up. And I think it was that, like we kind of talked about, of dropping the perfectionism of like, I don't have everything I need. I'm going to do it anyway. I have some friends who I know if I call them and like, hey, do you want to act in this thing with me? That they'll do it. I have a friend that I know will hold the camera. So the very, very first thing I did, we didn't even have an audio setup. We shot with the camera audio. So it sounded like crap. But even it got into a festival and like...
See
and
everyone?
From that festival, I met other people.
Yep.
And then it just kind of grows.
Yeah. I agree with you there. And I think it is a snowball effect that you just have to start somewhere. And then... you sort of start building a network of people, you know, especially if they like your style or they like your writing or, you know, whatever it is, or you like stuff, you know, things about them. But you're not going to find that network by looking online. You know, you have to start doing it and meeting people physically.
Especially like in the north too. Like there's so many people up here that are like wanting to grow and learn and everything. So there's such a community that like if you just start getting into it, you'll meet people. Yeah. And you'll start working together. Like that's how Dustin and I met, was at a festival.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, because yeah, like you said, like you're not going to meet people. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want of how to do something. And sure, you might have a community of people who are also online commenting or chatting or whatever, but like you need the local community who can be there to film with you. Yep.
And you never know who has an in with someone else.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the stuff, it just grows and snowballs and you gotta just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just get out there and do it.
So, here's a fun question.
Uh-oh.
So, you're used to writing horror, right? And always thinking of like, how can I make this ending different? How can I scare someone? But what scares you as a viewer?
I don't know, not much anymore.
How sad.
I'm like searching all the time for that one horror movie that like scares me, and they never do.
Really?
Do
you have a favorite that you go back to?
Favorite horror? I'd Scream all day.
Okay.
I will watch that franchise all day, every day.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I think the last few things I've watched that have like I've actually had nightmares or something is true crime documentaries.
Really?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people can just like take them in and whatever.
That's me.
Those are like, I can watch the most twisted of horror movies all day long and not be affected at all. I can only do a binge of like 2 or 3 true crimes before I'm like, I need probably about a month off.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that say about me that I can't go to bed happily?
I don't know, because I know it is like the
It's
opposite
real.
for most people.
Yeah.
And like there's lots of jokes made on the internet of like people can listen to true crime all day, but then like they watch a horror movie and it's too much for them. Whereas yeah, I'm the other way around, that I'm like, oh, that happened to somebody and I'm not okay.
Right. So you're thinking of, because it's a real story.
Yeah.
That you're in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And actually, I will say some of the scripts, not necessarily in glimpses, but some of the like feature horror scripts that I'm like developing have come from true crime, because those are what scare me.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, let's not exploit, like I don't want to exploit the true thing, but like take inspirations of like this shit happens, so, and that's scary.
Is that helpful for you to develop those ideas, or do you kind of naturally have a horror sort of reel in your head?
Constantly. Like something like totally innocent will happen in my mind. Will go like, this twisted thing could come of this. I think it was one of the shorts that we saw, maybe.
Oh, at Cinefest?
At Cinefest. I feel like there was one where afterwards we were talking and I was like, someone should have died.
Right.
And it was not at all a horror, but the whole time my mind was like, and this is where they get murdered, or this is where something awful happens, and then it never happened. I'm like, oh, that was just a nice story.
Whoops.
Yeah.
That's funny though that you're always that you always just sort of have that playback in your head.
Yeah.
Of,
Maybe it's just like I have really bad anxiety, so it's just my mind being like, here's all the things that can go wrong. So it's like a mix of anxiety and my obsession with film. That's like, here's all the things that go wrong, and here's how it could be a movie.
That's a very good way of channeling it.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has that. I'm pointing to myself. But yeah, at least you know how to filter it somewhere, get it out of your system.
To keep me relatively healthy, maybe.
Keep you somewhat sane.
Yeah. Don't know how it's going.
Please, for the love of God, tell me that there is going to be a season 3 of Glimpses of Grimm.
I hope so. Nothing is set in stone. I mean, luckily, when we're doing it ourselves, we don't have to wait for a green light from anybody.
I mean, I'm available. So
I will say talks have already started. After season 1, I wasn't sure if there was going to be a season 2. I didn't know. Basically, I was relying on Dustin. Be like, if he's in, I'm in, and we'll do it. And it just like, I don't know, like nothing was ever really said. We were working on other things. And then I forget what it was, but one day he was just like, hey, we should start talking about Glimpses of the Grimm. I was like, oh, we're doing it. Great. So I was very excited about that. And then this one, there's no pause in between, as we've already been like, okay, this is when we want to get started on it next year. Let's give ourselves a little more time. And we want to like, season 2 was a little more ambitious. Well, let's make season 3 even more ambitious. So let's start earlier, sort of thing.
Ambitious as in longer?
I don't know. That was one thing that Dustin kind of laughed at me. He's like, because I was like, we could write them and play with like ideas and stuff because 3 pages. And he's like, yes, 3 pages. Remember that. But then there was already talks of us being like, I mean, they don't have to be 3 minutes.
It's true they don't. However,
it's hard. Like, it started as a micro horror series. You know, I'd love to have a horror anthology series where each episode could be an hour long.
Cool. You just need a few more producers, and you can make that happen. A couple more
generous donors.
If anyone's watching season 1 and 2, by the time this airs, it will be the end of October. So we will be deep into season 2.
Yes. So like we've planned out this season that the final episode will air every Tuesday and Thursday starting October 15th. So the final episode, which is our most ambitious, airs on Halloween.
Oh,
yes.
Juicy. That's great.
That one
That's a great idea.
Almost killed me.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Why?
It
Literally?
is... No.
Okay. I was just wondering if a stunt went wrong or something.
No.
I don't know what's happening.
I was just a big ball of stress for...
I got to get my spicy dope.
So long. And even after we finished it and it worked out, I was still like not coming down from the stress because I was like, I don't believe that we got it.
Maybe you didn't murder enough people in it.
Probably not enough people died.
Okay.
No, it is. It's not a spoiler. Maybe it's something good to say to get people excited for it.
Sure. If not, I'll just do one long bleep and really confuse everyone.
It's we decided to do a one shot, and it is not. It is not 3 minutes. It's about 6 minutes.
A 6-minute one shot.
A one shot of effects and gore and
holy smokes
stunts.
I'm stressed out for you.
And because of the gore, we had one take to get it in. So we rehearse, and then we're like, Kate, we're adding in the gore, so we got to get it now.
So you rehearsed it that day, or you did?
We started rehearsing the day before for 2 hours.
Okay.
And then got there the next morning, set up lights and everything that we needed, rehearsed it a bunch more times for a few hours. And then we got to a place where we were like, all right, there's nothing else to do but try to get the shot.
Good Lord. So rehearsing with camera movements and all that? Like,
Yes.
So is Dustin on a Steadicam?
He's got a gimbal.
Gimbal,
for
okay.
it.
Similar, for those who
and-
don't know, similar idea?
Yeah, I mean, a gimbal's just like a motorized electronic thing that keeps your camera very steady.
Okay.
Steadicam is a lot about like balancing and stuff.
I see.
Whereas like a gimbal does all the work for you.
Okay.
So yeah, I rehearsed with the actors, with Dustin kind of like walking along with me so he can get an idea of what's happening. I'm also kind of telling him as we're going, I like this shot. And he either is like, yep, or you're crazy, that's not happening. And then we rehearsed a few more times, this time him with the camera, following along, making the adjustments. And then me looking at the frame, being like, hey, we're going to change the blocking because I always want to make sure that the frame is interesting and full.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just a lot. And then we hit record and hoped for the best.
And I'm assuming you
And
got
it
what you
worked.
needed.
We did it in one take.
So whose crazy idea was this to do a 6-minute episode in one take? It was yours, wasn't it?
Mostly, but I will say, like I wrote it and I said to Dustin, the point of this one is I want to show absolute like mania happening this whole time. And he was like, a good way to show mania. And I was like, I do. Because I wanted in my head, I was like,
Yeah.
I want this to be one shot. And I didn't say it because I didn't want to scare him. But then he suggested it. And I was like, okay, great. We're on the same page. Let's do this as a one shot.
Wow.
I think it also, like, we had talked in the past about, like, wanting to do a one shot and just needing the right script for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just kind of the right script.
Is it, as a viewer, when you're watching something that's no cuts and that's obvious, and it's a horror movie, does that sort of leave space for it to be even scarier because you're not actually visually seeing things cut back and forth? This kind of feels like anything can sort of happen.
Yeah,
at any time.
I guess so. I don't know about scarier, but more like anxiety inducing.
Right.
Which is also why we want to do the one shot and kind of show the chaotic atmosphere, is because the script itself really leads to it. And like I said, like I wanted, I guess the title of it will kind of give it away. It takes place over a dress rehearsal for a play.
Okay.
Which can get chaotic and crazy if you've ever been in theater. So I said, like, I was like, from the main thing I want to get across in this is that, like, it's like the stakes are high the whole time. Everyone's on edge. Everyone's tense. Everyone's fighting. So I want to get that across, and then obviously something goes horribly wrong because it's horror, so everyone knows that's going to happen. So yeah, I think the one shot and following the one character along, hopefully people are able to kind of feel that, like, what's gonna, because I also wrote it in a way that, like, it doesn't start like a horror. Like, there's not a lot of, I just don't think it feels like a horror.
No, you showed me a small clip of it, and you're right, which is
but,
good.
But I'm hoping that because people know it's a horror series the whole time, are like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And the one shot of creating the anxiety, I think, is really gonna, I think the combination of everything is gonna be really good.
Hope so.
So that
We'll
is.
see what Dustin does with the sound. But he's great. So I have no doubt that, like, whatever he puts in there for music is just gonna make it even more tense.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to watch all of them because obviously I only know the one that I'm in.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, like, there are a number of shots in there that look just phenomenal. Like the lighting and the way that you you and Dustin being the DP.
The way things look, I give credit to Dustin.
Okay.
Some of the like shot ideas, even that one, I think like just the final shot was the only thing that I was like, this is what I want.
Okay, cool.
The rest of it, and that's normally I find with most of the things we work at, there's like 1 or 2 shots where I'm like, if nothing else, this is the shot that I want and that I see, and that like that's the one we need to make sure we get. Other things is, like I said, Dustin and I very much bouncing off of each other, and him being like, I think this would be a cool shot. I'm like, yeah, that looks great. And then normally there's like, you know, like in yours, I'm not gonna give anything away, but like the final shot of it was like, that is what I want.
Yep.
We can like compromise on anything else, but I need this shot.
Yeah. Well, it looks amazing. Like, yeah. It's
Thanks.
the way you guys
Shout
lit
out
it
to
and
Dustin
everything.
and Brandon Berkeley on that one, because his lighting is great. He knows how to make things look
Spooky.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So, if people want to watch this, where are they going to find it?
YouTube.
On Low Bar Productions YouTube channel?
Season 1, yes. Season 2, probably. Either way, go to like Low Bar's Instagram, our social media, and we will make sure that it's linked to where it will 100% be on YouTube. What exact channel on YouTube depends.
To be determined.
But links will definitely be on our Instagram no matter what.
Okay. And links will also be in the show notes of this podcast as
Great.
well.
There's links everywhere.
There's links everywhere. We're just tossing them away for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Like I said before, I really love your writing, and so I'm really excited for everyone to watch these and see how spooked out they
Hopefully
really
like
get.
it. And then hopefully there's future projects that
Future projects. Yeah.
people will also enjoy the writing of.
And I don't know if I should spoil this. I won't say anything about it. But there is another project of yours that I have read
You have read it.
and absolutely love it.
Not a horror.
Not a horror. And it's
Not happy, but
No.
not a horror.
So I don't know how much we should say about it. That's up to you. But I wanted to mention that you do have other projects going on. And
And so does Dustin. We have between us, you know, we still have yet to meet to talk about what next year's going to look like. He has 2 shorts that we're about to go into production on one. He has another one, the one that has actually won the awards and stuff, also going into production next year. And then I have 2 more outside of Glimpses, 2 shorts that are not horror. They're both more drama. That I would love to do next year, but we will see. It's hard. It's hard being an independent producer with no money. But we're making what we can.
yeah, and you're doing a great job. So I think it's only going to build from here.
Thank you.
I think the money.
the plan is just keep putting stuff out, and eventually one day, hopefully, someone will be like, "Hey, you're doing this with no money. Let's see what you can do with money."
Yeah, here's a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I think so, and I'm not just saying
Hopefully.
that. I think the hard work eventually pays off.
Hopefully.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers with a weird dill
Oh yeah,
pretzel.
I didn't have any of the weird guys yet.
Spicy dill pretzel. Here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. It was good, right?
Not good.
Not super spicy.
Well, not really spicy.
It was perfectly balanced, I think.
It's good. Good note to end on.
Thank you.
Thank you.